Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics. We get started, as we do each and every week, by introducing my two co-hosts, Ruben Bressler.
Hello.
And Aaron Campbell.
Hi.
And we have this little message down here. It's down here, and it says, Skype is acting up, and this is the best we can do, sorry. Skype.
We figured it's better to give you some show than no show at all.
Yeah. You know, it only had to be during this preview thing.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect timing. Thanks, universe.
Man, when it rains, like I was running late, and these guys were like, "It's cool," and then I get here, and everything starts breaking.
And then everything lit on fire. Yeah.
Oh, it's been a day.
That's the bad news, but we also have good news, which is nice.
We do have excellent news, and I'm happy to report it. Let's go ahead and put on the screen our spoiler in just a moment. I want to let everybody kind of get in here. I want to give them a moment. I want to make them wait just another few moments of their life.
Oh, no. Are you being a deck tease?
Yes, a little bit.
Well, I was on it, so
same,
as it were, and yeah. So here we are. Now,
we can also remind everybody that we're doing the Google Hangout after the show, which is also a good reason to be on Google Hangout. So if you guys are Patreon people, then you can come discuss our card with us.
Yeah,
with us. We can interact. It'll be the after party.
Yeah,
and after the after
and you can
party,
discuss all those things that we can't talk about when we're live.
Man, you messing up my raps. Because after the after party comes the.
Really? After party?
The hotel lobby. All right, never mind. I'm not dropping R. Kelly lyrics on you guys anymore. Wow.
Okay.
See, you're welcome. All those people hanging out, you are welcome. That's
I'm out of my depth.
Here. Oh, the depth. Yeah, we got lots of that. All right.
These are some dark depths.
Here we go.
We got to stop teasing the people. Though.
3, 2, 1. Seasons Past is a 2 green and 4 generic mana mythic green sorcery. Return any number of cards with different converted mana costs from your graveyard to your hand. Put Seasons Past on the bottom of its owner's library. With a wonderful flavor text of the seeds of new life take root in the soil of old. So what we have here is a super mega, oh my god, regrowth. It's the regrowiest regrowth to ever regrowth.
Yes.
And as such, you are able to return lots and lots and lots of cards. Like, obviously, if you have the gamut, you're able to run the gamut.
Right.
But you know, ultimately, we have we have this is the mono green mythic sorcery thing or mythic creature thing for the set. And yeah, so I think it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, it's Innistrad. Things are dying. Things are coming back. But ultimately, you know, I think it's sweet. Ruben, what do you think?
Yeah. This card is so there's a lot to unpack with this card, right? Mm-hmm. First of all, you're able to return more cards to your hand than with any other card, except for perhaps something like Praetor's Council. Okay. And it's only.
You mean Praetor?
I'm sorry.
Praetor?
Praetor's Council.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Praetor is. I'm just enunciating the letters. Whatever.
Okay.
But 6 mana is a lot easier to get to than 8 mana, as any ramp player will tell you. It's a lot easier to cast a Primeval Titan than an Ulamog's Crusher or whatever they were casting back in the day. Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously this card is just custom built for Commander. I think that every Commander player wants to play All Sun's Dawn and play things like Restock and Praetor's Council. But this is a lot easier to take advantage of just by nature of playing Magic. You don't need to put all 5 colors in your deck. You don't need to do any special tricks. This just sort of fills itself up. And that's just for Commander. I think that this actually has a possibility of impacting real life formats. This is the most Ali Antrazi card I've seen in this set thus far. And that includes New Clone, which we'll get to later.
Wow, paging Antrazi.
Yeah, I think that this is the kind of card that if there's a blue-green or a banned control deck, is going to want. You know, you get to rebuy your 2-mana Rampant Growth effect, and your 4-mana Wrath effect, and your 5-mana card draw effect, and then a creature in the middle there, and also a land, right? Because that's a 0. So I think that this thing theoretically could see play in Standard. and the sentence "put this on the bottom of its owner's library" is really funny to me too. I just think that that's a sentence I've never seen before. It's a way to exile itself without really exiling itself.
It's a really weird way of not putting exile this after it's resolved.
Right, because the exile zone is kind of a place we need now, right? With all the Eldrazi running around. So I think that this is it also hints to this being cyclical, like seasons are. It's just a really cool card. I think that this card's neat and could be good. And is certainly this card is just never going to be less than $3.
Now, Aaron Aaron loves all things graveyard.
Well, not all things. We'll cover that.
Oh, we will we? Well, we have, and we'll get there. It's a big old toad. But tell me about Seasons Past. Tell me how you feel about it.
I like this card. It kind of reminds me of Green Sun Zenith, with the bottom of the library, clause, being able to possibly do this again and again. We've certainly gotten used to recursion effects coming from green, what with Death Mist Raptor.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. A little kimchi there. Death Mist Raptor and Den Protector. And so this is kind of a thing now. We've talked about, what green space in the color pie is and what green's been allowed to do. And so, I think that this is sort of a reflection of that. And this is just kind of that on speed, where it's like you can't just why settle for returning one card when you can settle for returning all the things. And so I think this is stellar. And I think I like that it also kind of gives some hope to things are pretty grim in Innistrad right now, as they should be, and I completely like it that way. But I like that we have this little glimmer of like some good going on here, where it's not all about death and burning and demons, and it's just kind of a tree, and it's pretty and it's wholesome, and I like that.
Yeah, spectacular art by Christine Choi here.
The light is fantastic.
The lighting. This is a tree growing out of an old, what I assume is an Abyssinian temple. Mm-hmm. It's just really cool art, and the flavor of this card is delightful. And foils are going to be awesome as well because of the way the light is coming through the leaves of the tree. And I'm really happy with our preview card.
Yeah, I tell you what, one of the things that I've gotten to do now that I'm working at Cool Stuff is that a lot of employees there love to play Commander. And so I'm not really a Commander player, as many have known through set reviews throughout the years. But, nowadays I've actually been playing a little bit of Commander. And I actually bought my first Commander deck, and I felt like I kind of brought like a tricycle to a NASCAR race. Because I got the living snot kicked out of me. Like, it was real bad. I was like, all right, let me play with your dual lands and your sweet mythics and your awesome rares. It had been a while since I'd had that kind of shell shock, like, when you brought your pre-con to F&M and you were like, what is happening? So it's kind of what happened. And yeah, so I can tell you there are multiple people who work with me in the building who will be absolutely thrilled with this thing. They're also thrilled with the new clone, which we'll get to in a bit. But this is the exact type of card where you curve out, and in EDH, you're going to get a ton of cards back, and it's always going to feel good.
I think there might also be room for that card in like a mono green devotion list. Like in Modern, sometimes you see like a Genesis Wave deck. You see the mono green Stompy list. They put a bunch of Utopia Sprawl on something, and then they pull a Garruk and they make a bunch of mana. Sure. I could see that being a thing too. It's like, again, you have Eternal Witness, which is great. We all love her, but you can do that and have this. Like, why not have both? And I think that's wonderful.
I just wanted to add, by the way, that how we talk about Mythic Spoiler a lot? Mm-hmm. Seasons Past is already up on Mythic Spoiler. How great is that? Man. They're just no joke over there.
They're really good.
So
they know what their business is.
Well done. And also hello, because you're watching.
Yeah, you are. At least for a minute or two, they were hanging out.
That's right.
Dude, that's fantastic. So, Seasons Past is our spoiler. Wizards, thank you very much for said spoiler. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I had a lot of fun with it. This is also one of those things that, part of me wonders how meta everything is from time to time when they go like, well, this card, maybe it's better than everybody thinks, and we'll give it to Evan because if people think that it's not going to be very good if Evan previews it. And then, but I got
Did you see that tweet?
What tweet would that be?
Someone sent a tweet the other day and said, if Evan Irwin likes a card, it is almost certainly bad, or something to that effect. And I was like, that is hilarious / accurate / terrible.
Wow. Where's my tea and where's my lemonade?
100%, but,
Oh no, now it's not 100. Oh yeah, let's just let that linger in the air for a moment.
Not zero either.
I'm not batting zero.
I mean, I'm the girl. I'm the girl who tried to make Splinter Fright happen. So I really can't judge you. But
I am actually batting 1. If this thing is okay, I am going to be 1 for 3 because my 2 previous ones were not good and never saw any play.
Look,
so
Wizards
hopefully this one. I like Seasons Past. I think that just because Evan's previewing it, first of all, it's not just Evan previewing it. You got Aaron and Ruben to balance out the awfulness. Not that you're awful. I'm not saying that.
I actually read into the name a little bit. The card is called Seasons Past, and before this, we all kind of had other projects that we were known for, where it's like, I came from the deck tees. I currently have the girlfriend bracket. Ruben, you've done the interviewing, is it?
Yep.
And all of your other wonderful projects, and Evan, of course, the Magic Show and things like that. And I just thought it was kind of interesting that it was called Seasons Past, and yet we've all had, we've kind of moved on to our own season or a new season, if you will. And that's what I took away from the card that we were given.
Absolutely.
That's nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and if you may have noticed this week, I did release a Magic Show.
Wow.
Yeah.
A new Magic Show, that is correct, is up. And
how often does that happen?
Don't you shut up.
The people have been clamoring. They've been wanting it. I'm glad you delivered.
People want more.
Dude, I busted my butt on that thing. I'm telling you, I put like 15, 16 straight hours into that. Like, I was like, you know what? Like, it's been a while, and it's time to come back, and it's time to show them who does it. And by God, I think it went pretty well. I'm glad everybody is enjoying it. I'm really, really proud of it, and yeah, so that was sweet. So let's move on to some spoilers. All right. Spoilers are always fun. There's no such thing as a bad spoiler. Even when they're bad, they're fun because they're new and they're bad.
Right.
So I'm bringing up Mythic Spoiler, which already has our spoiler. Thanks, guys. Altered Ego is the first one we have to talk about. It's a multicolor card. It's blue, green, 2 generic mana, and X. It's a 0/0 shapeshifter. It's rare, and it can't be countered. And you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it enters with X additional +1/+1 counters on it. So that's amazing. Like, and again, as you know, some of my coworkers playing Commander, they're freaking out over this card, man. There's a girl there with a Zagana deck, and she's like, oh my God. Like, she's flipping, and it's great because this is exactly the type of thing you want in those kind of formats. So, and it was previewed piecemeal by the Judge program.
Right.
That was amazing. They just
that was
pieced
really
it.
Cool.
Right. So for those who are unaware, they pieced out little tiny parts of the card all throughout different Twitter accounts of judges throughout the world. So it's apparently it was Lem's idea, Jason LeMahieu. And he had this idea. I thought it was brilliant because A, it's a great Commander card, and B, judges are known for playing Commander. It got a whole bunch of judges involved in the thing. It got their Twitter accounts some more publicity. They could have tied it together with a hashtag just for next time because I would love for Wizards to run this back. I think it's a great idea. Give them a really good EDH card. Let them go with it. Sure. But ultimately, they pieced out little tiny parts of it, not since, like... Gosh, I want to say since Jace the Mind Sculptor. I can't remember when they spoiled a card just by like little bits and parts that you kind of had to fit together.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the last time that anything was sort of a team effort in the way that Altered Ego was spoiled. But it was certainly I'm friends with a lot of judges on Facebook and on Twitter, and they were literal puzzle pieces missing out of. David De La Iglesia had little puzzle pieces missing out of the card, and people were trying to piece together what the card did basically all day, and it was super cool. And the card is great too. It's sort of like half clone, half mimeoplasm. Yeah. And I love the art on this one. Yeah. It's just terrifying. And of course it's Kev Walker, so of course it's going to be great. But yeah, this card is the other Ali Antrazi special for the set, pretty sure. I mean, there might be more. Who knows? But maybe there's a blue-green control deck out there. This thing doesn't need to be in control. This thing is it's also just a 4-mana clone. Right. It enters as with the original power and toughness in addition to the +1/+1 counters. The +1/+1 counters are what you would call bacon on your cheeseburger. It's just extra mana you have laying around. So I'm a big fan of that card as well.
Aaron?
It's okay.
Wow. We get the expert analysis of it's all right.
I do
I
like the art,
reckon
though.
it does something somewhere.
It's a 4-mana clone. I mean, when there's clones in standard, it's a different. When there's playable clones in standard, it's a different format.
Yeah, I mean, when I looking at this, I do think of Commander. I do think of the new Azuri. I do think of things like Master Biomancer. I do think of Zagana. Like you said, I think the Commander kids will love it, but I'm not really sure it's going to see any constructed play. But the art is gorgeous. Love the art.
With Commander kids. Now, speaking of not a kid, but a monster. A Gitrog monster. This is the other mythic that was previewed today. We have a green, black, and 3 generic mana for a 6/6 legendary frog horror. It has Death Touch, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you sacrifice the Gitrog monster unless you sacrifice a land. However, you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, that's anywhere, draw a card. So it's a 5-mana 6/6. It's already got Death Touch. It's got this really sweet ability that lets you draw cards. Even when you have to sacrifice the land to it at your upkeep, you're still drawing cards. High five. That's great. And so because it has the word like graveyard on it, and because it's green and because it's black, well, here we go. It was all Aaron all the time. Tell us.
Aaron,
let's hear it. How you feel about your froggy boy here?
Do you know how many people tagged me in this card?
Yeah.
I don't like it. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a compliment. Before I read it to filth, I'm going to give a compliment.
Start out with a compliment.
I'm going to start off with a compliment. It's a new thing I'm trying. So
all right.
I appreciate it for what it is, whereas a 6/6 for 5 is wonderful. The Gitrog monster, the lore behind it. There was a story, the magic story behind it today was, I think, one of the longest ones they've ever done. It was called Sacrifice. That was really good. I appreciate any card that is some sort of graveyard interaction. That's fine.
Wow, I appreciate it for what it is. That's what you say about stuff like ugly babies. You're like, I appreciate that for existing as a human.
Bless its heart.
I appreciate it for what it is.
The problem that I have with this card, and the reason why the majority of people tagged me, is because people seem to think that this is going to be in a dredge deck. No.
That's hilarious. I don't understand that at all.
Even you understand that it's not going to happen, Evan. 5
mana.
Whoa!
Did we just get an even me? Is this more crapping on my card evaluation quality?
You draw 1 card at a time, and you play fair and stuff like that. But 5 mana for a dredge deck is a lot.
Wow.
Modern dredge, the current modern zombie loam that's seeing play right now, tops out at 3. There is an exception for Vengeful Pharaoh, but we never cast Vengeful Pharaoh. We can, but I can count on one hand the number of times that I've cast it. So 5 mana is a lot. Legacy dredge, absolutely not. We cap out at 1, and even then we're bitter about having to do that. Vintage dredge, no way. But everybody this morning was like, this is going to see play in dredge, and it's not. I hate to say it. It might see standard play, but realistically, it's a legendary frog, so you can't put 4 of it in your deck. There's a very good chance that you might dredge it, and it doesn't have any form of recursion. So Icarid, Bloodghast, you can dredge those things and not feel bad about it because you can get them back. If you dredge that frog, it just feels bad. Like, that's the reason that modern dredge does not run Abrupt Decay, Lightning Axe, things like that, because it doesn't pay to. You're probably going to dredge those things, and it doesn't have flashback. There's no recursion. You just can't do anything with it. And so it's a fun card. I get it. People love the toad. It's a hypno toad, but for the love of God, do not use that name and dredge in the same sentence, because it's just not going to happen.
I don't understand the fact that like a card that is based around lands and drawing cards based on what happens to lands, and then they said Dredge wants this card.
I mean, don't get me wrong. With Life from the Loam, it is really good. Like, that is a combo right there. But to say that it belongs in a dredge deck, when you tell me dredge deck, I think of going wide. I think of zombie infestation, making zombies, making spirits. Dredge is not about putting all our eggs in one basket with one fatty. We want to flood the board. And
I never thought that this would be a dredge card. This card is an engine unto itself. It doesn't need the dredge support engine.
Right.
The cool thing about, well, first of all, it's a 6/6 Death Touch, which, again, this is the Grave Titan issue. It's like, why are you printing a 6/6 that has Death Touch? You really need to kill 15/15s? Like, what are you doing? But
Exactly.
aside from having the line Death Touch and not having a flavor text, which I would much rather this card just have a flavor text of one sentence, this card just is an engine unto itself. I see this card more of an Oracle of Moldiah attached to a 6/6.
Yeah.
It's a value card. Sure, you have to sacrifice lands, but when you sacrifice them, you're refilling your hand, so you're much more likely to find more lands to just go through your deck faster. Obviously this card combos with things like Molten Vortex. If you have a free discard outlet and Dakmor Salvage, then you can just go through your whole deck. Maybe that can interest you. Yeah. So like Seismic Assault, Dakmor Salvage is just kind of infinite, right?
Right.
Not infinite, I guess infinite in terms of how big your library is. But it's a cool engine card. We've seen engine cards like this before in the past, and they haven't really worked out. Like Moldiah Channelers comes to mind when people were like, "Oh yeah, this card is just going to be everything that we've ever wanted." Or Shaman of the Forgotten Ways is another one that's just a brick of text, and we just want to make the card work. And usually they don't work. But the Gitrog monster, it's a 6/6 for 5. It's got Spirit Monger stats. It's got the callback art to Chubtoad with the arm hanging out of the dude's mouth. I think this card's really good, and certainly not going to see any play in any dredge strategy unless you're talking about a Life from the Loam strategy, which is not a dredge thing.
I don't
see this as a combo card.
No, and I've ultimately, I think it's really cool that it fuels itself. Remember, now I'm hanging out with the Commander people who are also very excited that this was a legendary creature. Normally when they're legendary creatures, they have names, but instead the Gitrog monster is so crazy. There's only one of him in the universe. So he's a legend.
Yeah.
I do have a flavor question, though. So I'm under the impression, based on the story, that it eats people. I'm a little confused as to why on the card it needs lands to fuel itself. Like, I would assume it would have been creatures. Like,
maybe they're man lands? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, that's a little weird. But
yeah,
I think that if you put a creature sacrifice outlet in this set, it probably just makes it weird. It was probably sacrificing creatures in development. That would, or in research, or whatever the first. I guess its design is first, right? In design, it probably ate creatures, and then they were like, no, something is totally broken with this just eating creatures. We have to do something different. And so they were like, well, we need a way to put lands in the graveyard because of delirium. Okay, I guess the Gitrog monster now eats lands. But we've already commissioned the art, so I guess this is where we are now, and this is our life. So whatever.
This is where
I think it's cool. Like if you ignore the fact that people are different than lands.
Now, can I bring up one card that will probably see play in a dredge list?
I'm sorry? Yeah.
The Tolarian Academy. The professor's preview card was called Prized Amalgam.
Yes.
That card is like a hug from Jesus. Okay, so it's one colorless, a blue and a black. It's a creature type zombie 3/3. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, return Prized Amalgam from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped at the beginning of the next end step.
Yep.
That's pretty sweet.
I want one in every color.
Yeah.
You want what?
I want one in every color. I'll take it to go.
Nice.
Yes.
Yep.
Just my god.
As many as you can get. Yeah, that card is nice. That card is definitely going in a dredge deck. It goes with Bloodghast and it goes with Icarid.
Not so much. I think in Legacy it's more on the Manalist side. Like I think Manalist would enjoy that more. For Zombie Loam, absolutely. Raph Levy tweeted about it this morning, and he's like, "I know I tried to make everything go in Zombie Loam." He's like, "But I think this one might actually work."
Goes in Zombie Loam, yeah.
And even Jason Chang, I think that was the young man from Melbourne. He's been playing it as well, and they were kind of kibitzing about it on Twitter. And he's like, "I'll let you have this one." So I'm actually really excited about Prized Amalgam. So if you want to tag me in those tweets, please. With the frog, you can go ahead and miss me with that because I'm not.
This is the blue black Death Mist Raptor.
Yeah, love it.
It's actually somewhat easier to get into play than Death Mist Raptor. There are only so many creatures with morph, but there's always a reanimation spell. There's always a creature that comes back from the dead, especially in an Innistrad set. There's stuff like the 2/2 Menace that we talked about that was like previewed early, Relentless Dead, that comes back, and so that guy just comes back with him. You don't even have to pay the X to bring it back. I think prized amalgam is a real prize.
Yeah.
Wow. and X was going to give it to him, but didn't. Okay.
That was good. That was good.
All right. So we, and also just a quick kudos for the professor. As a man who has made many preview videos, he made a great preview video. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. For those listening, go check out the Tolarian Community College preview video for the amalgam, because it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Can I talk about one more preview that I saw today that isn't necessarily good, but it was a call out to an older card?
Continue.
Absolutely not. All right, go ahead.
All right, we're done here. Moving on. Past the salt.
No, Aaron, do your thing.
So they released they released a cycle of cards called Vessels, and there's Vessel of Ephemera, Vessel of Paramnesia. Yes. Vessel of Paramnesia is a shout out to Memory Lapse, a card from Homelands.
Yeah.
If you look at the art from Homelands, it's the bust with the puzzle piece missing and part of it a brain. And the minute I saw that, I was like, that's from Memory Lapse. And so if you combine, if you do a side by side, it's literally, I don't think it's the same artist, but it's the same art.
No, the original artist was Mark Tadine, and because I know some really random Magic trivia, that card was not originally in Homelands, and because I did research on Homelands, Bill Rose designed that card as a part of Mirage, and they were looking at Homelands, and Bill Rose designed it, and they put it in Homelands. I'm trying to figure out exactly where it came from.
Right.
I'm not as good as Marrow, just nailing those things.
Yeah.
But it was definitely put in the set, and it was not originally designed in the set, because the rest of Homelands is terrible.
Right.
And that's pretty much where we're at.
But yeah, the whole Vessel cycle is super cool. I actually think that the green one, Vessel of Nascency, has a reasonable shot to see play in Standard just by virtue of being 1 mana to cast and 2 to sacrifice.
Well, I mean, it helps with Delirium, but you have Oath of Nissa, which is like just more or less better. Real quickly, wanted to touch on Scourge Wolf, which I think is really awesome.
Yep.
It's a 2-red, 2/2 first striker. With Delirium, it gets double strike, which is awesome. So throw your burn spells, sorcery, and instant alike. Get the lands in the graveyard if you have to, or do something else like use a vessel to get them in there. Another one is Gold Knight Castigator, and good luck not hearing everyone say Gold Knight Castrator, because that's
I would cosplay that.
Right. So I would look at that friggin' weapon. That weapon is insane. Love it. It's a red mythic. It was given to Kenji to preview. 2 red and 2 generic mana for a 4/9.
Yep.
Weird numbers. A 4/9 flying haste creature. If a source would deal damage to you, it deals double that damage instead. If a source would deal damage to Gold Knight Castigator, it deals double that damage to Gold Knight Castigator instead. I've heard some people really excited about this card. I think it's one of those obvious risk-reward things, and usually those cards don't work out.
Right. I think that this card's actually probably going to be a sideboard card for whatever red aggro deck there is to combat the sort of Sorin Grim Nemesis kind of Esper control decks. Mm-hmm. You bring this in against an Esper control deck, and then they've got a Doomblade variant and a Counterspell and a Swords to Plowshares variant, none of which deal damage to Gold Knight Castigator.
Right.
So you just get a 4/9 with flying and haste. It doesn't really have a drawback most of the time. And even if you're taking damage, usually that's not relevant against something that's a control deck. So while I wouldn't main deck this in most metagames, I think that it has a certain amount of appeal as a sideboard card.
I remember when people were excited about Master of the Feast.
Yeah.
Master of the Feast was a 2 black and 1 generic mana 5/5 flyer, so a 3 mana 5/5 flyer, and at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent draws a card. That was really exciting for the time. It was in Journey in the Nyx, and everybody they were reaching to get excited. And but it wasn't that exciting ultimately, and it never proved itself out. And as a result, we have like a card that was super high upside but super high downside, and this reminds me of Master of the Feast.
Well, the other thing about this card is what 4 + 9 is.
13.
Right?
Oh my god, we have to. That card is everything.
The Illuminati is confirmed with the 4/9.
Illuminati, Half-Life 3, all the things are happening.
Right.
Which is great.
And then, so I'm just like hanging out with, like, my sister came out to Vegas to help me move the last of my stuff. And now I'm in Ohio at my parents' house. And I'm on Twitter looking at what cards there's going to be. And I come across Triskaidekaphobia.
Yeah.
And I just sort of stop everything I'm doing. And I think my sister thought I was having a conniption just because I like stopped moving.
I started laughing.
Stared at my phone for like 45 seconds. And I didn't know what to do with my life anymore. This is bizarre and hilarious, but come on, Wizards. Like, what is this?
It's brilliant. It's a black and 3 generic mana enchantment, Triskaidekaphobia. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose one. Each player with exactly 13 life loses the game, then each player gains 1 life. Or each player with exactly 13 life loses the game, then each player loses 1 life. Note that this is in a format with pain lands, so I don't expect this to do anything in standard, just like Hitotsuga's Second Right was in a format with pain lands.
Yeah.
This is just a card to be awesome. It's just an awesome to be awesome card.
Well, especially when you look at the art. I mean, there's 13 bloodstains, there's 13 rivets on the barrel, there's 13 stones that make up the stove, there's 13 stones, the archway of the stove, 13 logs on the stove, 13 broken shards, 13 wall boards. I mean, the art, this thing just screams flavor. This is easily my favorite card in the set. The minute I saw it, I just started laughing, and not laughing at it, but just like, what? Like,
just joy. Just actual
the name,
joy.
Even like the letters, each of the clauses is 13 words.
Yep.
And just everything about it, it just knocks it out of the park. Like, holy God.
There's 13 letters in the artist's name.
Oh my dear Lord.
It's so messed up.
So many.
Star City even went so far as when they were coming up with the prices. I think they have this $1.13, was it?
It was $1.13, and then they made it 13% off. So now you can get them for like 98 cents.
Love it. Love everything about it.
Yeah.
So here was one that got me certainly a lot of chatter. Sin Prodder is a red and 2 generic mana 3/2 with menace. So it's a Goblin Boggart, I believe it was. And
Boggart Brute.
Boggart Brute, thank you. So it's a Boggart Brute from Origins. 3 mana, 3/2 menace. Okay. However, this one says at the beginning of your upkeep, you reveal the top card of your library. Any opponent may have you put that card in your graveyard. If that player does, Sin Prodder deals damage to that player equal to the card's converted mana cost. Otherwise, you put that card into your hand. Initial reaction with this card is freaking amazing. This card is basically the red dark confidant. This card is ridiculous because while it is a Punisher mechanic, letting your opponent choose, it's still making them hurt and or do part of what you want because you're able to deal damage. Like, here's my Chandra. You take 6 or I get it and then I play it and you take 6. So that's a thing. But then, people who've won Pro Tours showed up and were like, hey, don't think this card is that good. I actually don't think it's going to see play. And then I was completely conflicted. So Kibler and Sam Black were like, don't think this card is good. And then for the true kind of like Twilight Zone-esque craziness, Brad Nelson shows up and he's like, what are you guys talking about? I think this card's great. And I'm like,
sure.
What is happening? This is like where, Evan thinks the card's good, so it's bad. And then I say, okay, fine, it's bad. Then all of a sudden it's good. I don't get it. What is happening to my life?
It's like, how far can they push the Punisher mechanic before we actually play a card that has it? Right. For those that don't know, Punisher mechanic is basically like making your opponent choose the lesser of 2 evils. And that's why cards like, there have been cards in the past like Browbeat and
Book Burning,
Blazing Salvo, and Book Burning that were the original version of this. And then Temporal Extortion happened, and they've come up with a Vexing Devil, and they've happened every once in a while. But they're bad. They're usually bad. Traditionally, they're bad. Super bad. Magic designers know this. And so how far can we push it until we find what they're going to play? Sin Prodder is the best one of these we've seen, I think, of Punisher mechanic stuff. It's already a 3/2 menace for 3, which is borderline playable. It has a damage/card advantage engine built into it, so there's no there's no missed opportunity cost here. Like, you're already putting a creature in your deck. It's not like playing Browbeat, where you tap 3 mana and then your opponent either gives you a useless resource or takes 5 damage, which is often a useless resource also. This one, on the other hand, I think has potential. But when so many good players say that something's bad, man, I'm loath to try it.
Dude.
But
so all right, so we're going to move on here. Now, I don't have a scene change because thanks, Skype.
Yeah.
But what I do have is some of the coolest puzzle solving stuff that Wizards has ever done. Now, look, man, we're kind of hardcore nerds, all right? Like we get it. We're hardcore. We know how to make things happen. We solve puzzles. We figure things out. We play the best game in the world because it's one of the most complex games in the world. And then they created a puzzle. They said there's a puzzle in the pre-release poster. I don't know if they necessarily said it or people... Yeah, they said it like literally on the poster. It's like, check it out. And it's got all the clue token things, or all the clue stones were all pointed different directions. And so people started to figure out what that meant exactly. And then all of a sudden there was a certain... there was some journal entry and where it related to that. And then like which letter or which word of which sentence of the clue stones mattered. At the end of all of this craziness, there was a clue that says when you put all the clue stones together and you read the right number, right words in the on the cards, remember this, they came as 3. Now, first of all, that's talking about the Eldrazi, but second of all, that is the flavor text from Ugin's Insight.
Right.
Ugin's Insight was not a puzzle. It was the solution. And what it means to me is that Emrakul is here. Emrakul is doing this. Emrakul is driving them insane because that's what Emrakul does. Like, that's part of his big Eldrazi power, is that he drives people insane.
Yeah. So I linked it in the chat here. The conspiracy nut jobs over on Reddit were nice enough to put together all of the clue flavor text. Basically, if you take all the clue flavor texts and put them in a certain order, and then also take Tamio's journal, the card has a flavor text that says journal entry 434 in English, but in other languages it's a different journal entry based on how the language works out. Anyway, because the other languages changed the number, people started getting all worked up about how maybe there's a hidden message here, and then they found some weird patterns. And so if you take the hundreds digit of the journal entry and then take the clue number, then you end up with a word, and it's a cipher of some kind, and it ends up being the flavor text from Ugin's Insight, which hints at the third Eldrazi, which is, of course, Emrakul. So, and because we know the next set is called Eldritch Moon, and Eldritch Horrors are sort of a good intersection between what the Eldrazi are and horror tropes, like Lovecraftian Cthulhu monsters are a horror trope. They don't really match up the best with what we're currently dealing with werewolves and vampires and stuff, and that you rarely see, vampires in the same story as, big Lovecraft horror, Pacific Rim monster. Sure. But I guess we might see it next time. I mean, that's what this is hinting towards. Or they could have just been mashing their hands against the keyboard and we are finding something that isn't really there. That seems really unlikely, but it's always possible.
It's funny because from the chat, hi Jay Wiley, one of the things he notes was, there's more to Lovecraft than big noodly appendages. But you know what? There is always big noodly appendages when it comes to Lovecraftian horror in terms of the tropes that everyone thinks about and considers as Lovecraftian. So when you're talking about Cthulhu, you don't ever draw Cthulhu as like a solid shape. No. He's got the wiggly bits.
Yep.
And I absolutely 100% believe we're getting an Emrakul and Eldritch Moon. They had to, and it's sort of one of the things that that Rosewater was talking about was like, we wanted to go back to Innistrad, but we didn't want to go back to Avacyn's restored Innistrad because that set sucked. But Innistrad was amazing. So we had to figure, he was like, we had to figure out a way to go back. Well, what if the angels went mad? Well, what's the only thing that could cause like this celestial being to turn against the people that it was protecting and trying to save? Like,
if you think Emrakul's the only thing that can warp their minds, you haven't really been paying attention to the lore. I'm sorry.
Right. That's the other thing.
No.
So
I think you guys are reaching.
You think I'm wearing a tinfoil hat. You think that I've got my Beautiful Mind poster up on the wall with all the different Polaroids and newspaper clippings from all the different potential noodle arm sightings, and you don't think that in Gulf and Waves which has big noodle arms underneath the waves, means anything. Or
No,
that
I
the
think it's
skyline
circumstantial.
of that one art from the land,
or
that
the
has,
lattice, the lattice in the sky, the lattice in the clouds.
Yeah.
I mean, if you Google the word eldritch, it means weird, sinister, or ghostly. That could
Wake
apply
up,
to anything.
people. It's Emrakul, and
not only that, but
Thraben was an inside job. I need you all to listen.
I think
to me.
if you rely on Emrakul to be the big bad here, it's lazy.
Dangerous to go outside.
It's lazy storytelling to bring Emrakul back to this plane. You didn't need to do it. I know several people who are not happy.
Don't listen to her. She's not. She's
Whatever.
trying to warp your mind. She's trying to lie to you.
Whatever. You can have your tired villain and your tired
Hell Vault was a conspiracy.
and your tired Punisher Delver and your big Hypnotoad that no one's gonna play. You can have it all. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Look what you made me do.
You want to bet? You want to bet on it?
I sound like
Is that
the
what you wanna do?
scientist at the beginning of the horror movie that's
Oh, yeah.
trying to warn you all. And Aaron's the president who's just like, no, I'm sure it's fine. And then everyone dies in Act 2.
I'm Will Smith and you're Jeff Goldblum in Independence Day.
Correct.
That's how we're doing right
Right,
here.
but you're not going to punch Emrakul in the face. And say welcome to Earth.
Welcome to Earth. Welcome to Innistrad.
Welcome to Earths, y'all.
Welcome to Thraben.
Jesus.
You're so wrong. You're so wrong.
Wow. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, Ruben,
Hi.
tell me a little bit about this article that Johndalebtw wrote on Star City Games.
Right. All right. So I got a link here for you folks. It's called I Wish I Could Have Been There, and it's by Johndalebtw, who knows a thing or two about going way too deep into things. He appreciates my Illuminati Eldrazi confirmed conspiracy theories.
Sure.
And yeah, he
Somebody has to.
Yeah, somebody's got to believe, the truth is out there. All right.
Oh my god.
So
that
basically, this is a summary of all of the cool stuff, basically, that Wizards did over the last, month or so, leading up to Shadows over Innistrad, including but not limited to the triple GP Escape the Room promotion, in addition to the thing that we were just discussing, the sort of hinting at that there's a greater thing at work here, that could be Emrakul or could not be anything. And then also about the Hanweir Chronicle, or the Hanweir Chronicle, which I found the most interesting. We talked about the Hanweir Chronicle, which is a Tumblr page that is basically sort of disconnected from the real storyline stuff that's on the mothership.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that they've written has hinted at a card or something that came out within a week or so. The most obvious example of this is when they used the words incorrigible youths in a Hanweir Chronicle article, and then the card incorrigible youths came out like that week. Mm-hmm. And so if you're interested in all of this conspiracy theory stuff, unlike Aaron, who could give a hoot, then you should go check out his article. And also he talks about the cool box that it was the Spanish or the Germans guy got sent in the mail with all the silver stuff in it, and talking about all that cool stuff. So I just think that JDB did a really good job of breaking all that stuff down and really geeking out on the details.
Well, I think Wizards kind of geeked out on the details.
Yeah, agreed.
I think Wizards, whoever was in charge of this project, you did a great job. Seriously, you killed it. And you should be proud of yourself, because this is the best, most kind of integrated I've ever seen the lore and the flavor. And like for Innistrad, and to make Innistrad work that way, they just killed it. Because, and honestly, I'm hoping that the fact that all of this kind of felt so good and was so exciting and worked so well, that they eventually will actually will actually do this again, in terms of making cards that are about the flavor, and everything should exude the flavor. A lot of times they were talking about like, well, Innistrad's this one thing because we really care about it resonating, but we'll just go to Theros and whatever, and it's not a big deal. And they'll give us like Chained to the Rocks, but that's about as good as it's ever going to get. Like, no, we want this all the time. I want all this cool stuff. Like, they hired the people to make the escape rooms, and they should have and obviously that was a great thing. I think the same people probably was in on this poster thing, because it's very much like as soon as you unlock that last little piece, that little number in the flavor text or whatever, everybody like goes nuts and figures it out, and that's fantastic. They're waiting for that shoe to drop. And in Wizards, they did a great job both making amazingly flavorful cards. I just threw down the gauntlet and said I think Startled Awake's the most flavorful card Wizards has ever made ever. And instead, we've got the ability to, just really kind of feel cards and feel a set in ways that we've never have. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
So that is terrific, I think. And Johndale, as usual, yes, he goes super deep, and that's great. That's what's so cool about him.
Somebody has to. Somebody has to go deep and bring everything to the surface for us lay people to be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. But somebody has to figure it out first, and I'm certainly not going to be the one to figure out that clue number 434 means the flavor text from a different set. Like, that's not going to be me. I'll just enjoy it.
No, and then again, that's the thing where like Ugin was not the puzzle, it was the solution. I love that. It's the Kaiser Soze moment where you're just like, what? Yeah. And everything is backwards, and like, you're like, wow, he was dead the whole time.
Exactly.
That's how it becomes amazing. So, Aaron.
Hi.
Tell me about Gabby Spartz.
You mean besides the fact that she's like a queen?
Yep.
I didn't say she wouldn't. I'm just saying, tell us about what happened. She had some news and all that good stuff.
I was under the impression that the only white person that people called queen was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or the Queen.
No, everybody has potential to be a queen.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, now I have something to aspire to.
There you go.
You are a fierce queen, Ruben. I will give that to you. But...
Work it, Rubes. Work.
Work
that.
So Gaby Spartz, who we all love, announced today that she's going to be stepping away from the company that she helped, co-found, and she helped build Dose Media. And she's going to be taking a sabbatical for a couple of months to focus entirely on MTG coverage and streaming full time. And this was a big deal. I'm certainly somebody who has also tried to increase visibility for women in Magic and to get more women to play. And she has certainly been probably the biggest trailblazer we've had in the last year or so. Like, she has done so much, and her article that she posted on Channel Fireball last year really got the discussion going and made it possible for, my show and other shows to really break through, and other bloggers and streamers. And, having her in the booth has been such a big deal. And so everybody's just really psyched about this. She killed it in coverage. She just kills everything she does. She's just damn queen. We love her. And so I'm really excited to see what she does with this time. And it's just it's a good thing. And it's something that, it's tricky. And then there's been a lot of discussion about this. When Melissa went to Wizards, it was tough, because on the one hand, you're happy for her because you're like, oh my God, you have a job opportunity at Wizards. That's amazing. But then you're going, we've just lost a really amazing, female community member. And, this is a situation where Gabby said in her note, she posted it on Facebook, and she specifically said, I wanted to get more women into Magic. I wanted to make an impact. And she's able to do that without really losing anything. Like, we're not losing anything and she's not losing anything. We're all kind of winning here. And so I hope that she's able to keep doing the good work, and I just can't wait to see what she does.
Yeah. I have a couple thoughts on this. The first is that I tweeted earlier today that there are certain people that I really think it's nice when someone like me, generic white dude, gets a job doing Magic coverage. But I think it's quite another thing when someone who is unique and quite good gets involved in Magic coverage. And I think so I tweeted earlier today that I was super excited when I got into Magic coverage, because I thought I was the first one who was like trained on television to be doing televised Magic coverage. Then my buddy Nick Miller got involved, and I was excited with him because he's an actual honest to God journalist. And so I was super excited that there was someone that could bring clout to the position of reporting on Magic from a trained journalism perspective. Gabby is a media mogul person.
Oh yeah.
She's, OMG Facts and Dose are huge. Emerson and Gabby created those from, their keyboards. They're in Forbes articles all the time. They're big deals. She has, 20,000 Twitter followers or whatever. So she can bring not only her personal style, which of course is great, and she's a very good streamer and all that kind of stuff, but also brings that sort of internet sensibility of knowing how to capture an audience to Magic. which is something that we need. We need not just entertaining people, but know what to do when you have their attention, how to keep their attention.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, of course, is that, she's a woman, and being a woman who is a very, very capable commentator on a big stage, I'm hoping that this means that she's going to start being a regular on GP and Pro Tour coverage. I don't know what specifically she means, but I'm hoping that's what this means. And if that's the case, then that's a different kind of big deal also, because the Pro Tour is the big stage. And so I'm hoping that that's what this means.
I'm hoping as well, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I appreciate what her and Athena did, because Athena did coverage for CFB, and she did a very good job. And the thing I appreciate about both of them, and even the people who are hiring them and everything, they made it seem so effortless, because coverage was sort of that one frontier that we had yet to really break through. We gave Jackie Lee an opportunity at Worlds, I think it was, and she did fine. But it was one of those things where it's you would hear all these stories of but there's nobody, and what are we? There's nobody out there, and there's nobody competent. But yet, you were seeing all these other people who happen to be men that didn't have any experience that were given the opportunity. And it was well, if we're going by experience and they don't have experience, and what's the excuse that you can't give a woman the chance? And so they made it just seem so easy. Athena came in and killed it. Gabby came in and killed it. And I think they both just kind of showed you that, you don't necessarily need this years of experience that people say you do, that excuse that people give. They just sort of slid in and did the thing. And I think that's really great, because maybe it'll dispel, those excuses we hear, but there's nobody, and it's really difficult, or it takes all these years. No, it doesn't. And you just have to give them the opportunity.
And esports is esports and Magic, and to a lesser extent other things that have a similar audience, like poker. Just because I'm involved in
worse audience, like League of Legends has female announcers, and that's one of the most toxic communities in the world. No shade, but if they can put women up there and give them 50,000 followers, and why are we behind?
Right. But I think that, especially because Magic is so prevalently male and so prevalently upper middle class,
and it's often like a chicken and egg problem. They want there to be female, everyone's we want there to be announcers, but there aren't any, and it's well, there are none because you won't let them do it. Right. So,
and then will get into the problem of, if you hire a woman, then people are going to be but does she really play Magic? And you get into the whole fake gamer geek bull that we always get into. Not we, but that other games and comics get into whenever there's a presenter of anything. That's, for some reason, females need to present their nerd cred, whereas someone who's just a white male doesn't need to present their nerd cred. Obviously, Gabby has more nerd cred than anybody.
She rolls with CFB.
Exactly. So that's not a real problem here, but it's worth mentioning that there's so many more hoops to jump. You don't need me to mansplain that to you, but
we don't need no mansplaining up in here, bro.
Hold on. Let me, as Ruben Bressler, white male, upper middle class American, explain the problems of women in Magic. It's just not. Yeah.
I think the last thing to Gabby's credit as well is, you mentioned kind of her social media background, and there's always been, when you are a visible woman, you are going to get some flack. And I've certainly been in the Twitch chat when Gabby's on coverage, and Twitch chat is terrible, of course. But, she obviously has that training where she's used to social media. She knows how to deal with the comments, the trolls, and things like that in a way that, frankly, I can't. I am somebody who wants to defend myself and who sometimes lashes back. And, to be sort of one of the first, you have to have that thick skin. You have to have that training to be able to shrug those things off. And she's able to do that really well. And so that's just another reason I think she's really cut out to do this. And, I think that was another difficult step in choosing somebody, is can they handle all of that? Because it can get pretty ugly out there, and she's not fazed.
So we have a tweet from LSV today that said he has more exciting announcements that Team John Fireball has joined Team UltraPro, and they're looking forward to an awesome Pro Tour. All right. I don't even know what teams mean now. Do teams mean things? I don't know if teams mean things. It's everybody's a team on everybody. And Pantheon's now with, Team Star City Games that doesn't even really exist. And there's the East-West Bowler people or whatever, and they do a thing. And now they're on Team UltraPro because who gives a crap? Nothing makes any sense. I don't understand it. Teams in Magic in general are weird. Nothing that you would expect them to be is. They don't play together, test together, stay together. it's not even sometimes friends with each other. They're here because I'm guessing they're all getting some sort of, benefit, bonus, reward, payment, so on and so forth for doing this, for like having the weird like Ultra Pro wristband. That's great, but like when everybody is on the same team, nobody's on a team.
Yeah, I'm one of like the 15 people that care about the people trading teammates back and forth and liking the team dynamics when it comes to Pro Tours. Because you're right, they don't train together except for maybe the week before a Pro Tour when they all get together. But Ultra Pro is well known for not doing that. They're well known for their online preparations. They're mostly people who have real lives with real jobs. Because this is why Matt Sperling and Paul Rietzel, I think, tore off from Channel Fireball, if I recall correctly, they had responsibilities in real life and couldn't show up to do the week of testing with the core group that was, LSV, Ochoa, etc. And so they're recombining again with Ultra Pro Channel Fireball with new members. Like Sam Black, I think, is part of Ultra Pro, which, by the way, this
joining them as well.
Yeah, Cheon, of course, now that he's going to be more regularly on the train. I think that, well, first of all, this is Team Ultra Ball. I think that's a pretty obvious nickname, which is nice. Nice that they did that. But yeah, I mean, there have been a couple of monumental shifts in terms of team dynamics for Pro Tours that most people don't really care about. One major one was when Team Star City Games became Team Channel Fireball Pantheon. Another one was when Team Ultra Pro came off of Team Channel Fireball Prime, and this is another one in which it's recombining. So I'm interested to see if this means anything. Because, as I mentioned, Ultra Pro doesn't test live. Their testing and discussions mostly take place online, and so I'm interested to see how that dynamic works out. But trades and people dropping and joining new teams and deciding to go solo for a Pro Tour is a thing that happens with every Pro Tour testing team. And this one just happened to be a lot of time before the next Pro Tour. I wouldn't have expected this announcement until after Innistrad or Shadows over Innistrad came out.
Well,
but
we're still looking at like 3 weeks or whatever before the set comes out. And thank you, chat, because if they're still with face to face, then it will be Team Ultra Faceball, which I think is amazing.
I don't think face to face is part of that. I'm not sure.
I think face-to-face and Pantheon were working together, but not face-to-face and CFB.
Sure.
Because CFB and Pantheon are different entities.
So we have Ultra Balls and Face Pants.
Right. And then we have bowls. There's bowls in there.
Yeah,
sometimes
East-West
they're
Bowl.
East.
Right,
like
and that's
East
the other
West
thing
Bowl,
is that the
there'll be
last
East Bowl and West Bowl, and then it'll be
the last
Ultra West
several
Bowl.
Pro Tours have been won by Cabin Crew, right? And East-West Bowl, and not these big name teams that we're so used to, like Ultra Pro and Face to Face. So it's super. I've always find this stuff super interesting, but I can see that this just sounds like fantasy baseball. Like if I listen to my one of my best friends, Tan and Grace, talk about fantasy baseball, I will literally fall asleep. That's what it sounds like when I talk about team dynamics.
Well, I mean, first of all, there's like there was a little bit of kind of hype behind it for a while of having fantasy sports be related to Magic and having picking different players and seeing how they do and whatever. And then that kind of went away. I don't know what happened, but it was really cool, and it even got some people kind of following it and getting excited about it. I thought it was neat as hell, and I thought it was going to grow, but instead it like literally just died on the vine. And now none of these teams. I'm just saying, for me, I don't understand because none of these teams mean anything. They don't.
Right.
Why are they here? Why are you CFB and X? Why are you X and Y? Like, we're not NASCAR, but I know you want to be because that lets you put logos all over yourself and you get paid for all those logos. I'm just trying to figure out why teams are even there. It just, like people like to test together, but people also like to be sponsored, of course. And so now all of a sudden they're like wearing a different shirt than the team they're on. The team they're on is with another team of people that they don't actually really interact with at all.
Well, there's very little team loyalty is the problem. Like if you ever had any identity, like if you grew up going to the Channel Fireball store, then you would be a Team Channel Fireball fan, regardless of who was on the team. Or if you grew up as like a John Finkel fan, you would follow John Finkel to whatever team he went to. But there's nothing like that really in Magic. Like you have your favorite players, Reed Duke, and you follow them to whichever team they go to, but there's no team loyalty. right? Like you're not going to just keep following UltraPro regardless of who's on UltraPro.
Yeah.
And that's awkward with calling them teams anyway. I mean, it's all in the eye of the beholder as it is in terms of who you're rooting for.
Yeah.
And the teams just add another layer to it.
I just can't imagine why that, like, at some point team stops meaning things when everybody's on everybody's teams, which is on everybody's other team, which is on everybody's other team. So
well, yeah.
That's a problem. Regardless, we have to round the corner. We're rounding the corner as we do each and every week to the finisher. Now, today marks the very first preview card for our podcast. So, high five. Yay. Now, we all have our own checkered pass with preview cards, some more checkered than others. That ain't. Seriously? 3 minutes? That was not a preview card. However, I did have time reversal, and I pay for those sins often.
Yeah. You also did War and Instigator, if I recall.
Yeah. You know, a man can get excited about things, and you ain't got to be all hating. All
right.
So, however, hopefully this isn't our last official preview. Wizards, right here, bro.
That would be nice.
So assuming that we aren't excommunicated by Wizards of the Coast in the meantime, what kind of card would you like us to be able to preview in 3 months? Aaron?
Okay, well, since Wizards has introduced clue tokens and gold tokens and all sorts of different tokens, all I really care about is Wizards bringing me my precious Duke token.
Yeah. That comes in packs.
The little squinch. It's all
I want
about the
assemble
squinch.
the Legion, but with Dukes. Just give me a Legion of Dukes. That's what I want.
Assemble the Dukes.
Assemble the
And for me, those Dukes will always be of Hazard. But for you...
Oh, my God.
Yes.
They'll always be of Reed.
Yeah, they'll always be of Reed.
Well, personally, I'd like a Planeswalker. Specifically, I'd like a snarky late 20s fellow with week-old stubble and a devil-may-care attitude. Because we all know what Magic really needs is more white male Americanized characters.
Yes.
Ooh,
that burned though.
He went there.
Self-burn.
Well, seeing as we're, of course, the best kind of burn. Well, seeing as we're on Innistrad, I was really hoping for something to do with spirit tokens. Like 3 of them. Seriously.
Yeah.
3.
That'd be great. 3 dudes.
Let it go.
Look, sometimes you gotta hang on to those reins because it's all you have.
Why
in the world.
run away from what you're known for?
Don't fight it. Just embrace it. Just let
That's
it
right.
take you. It's like quicksand. All right.
Yeah.
But that, however, ends another episode of Magic Mike's. I would like to thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
Right, for doing that. That was fantastic. And so we're going to our final slide here. And for those who want to hang out in our after party, you guys hang out. There's going to be a link on patreon.com/magicmikes for those who support us at a $20 plus level to hang out after the show. You totally should. It's going to be great. However, thank you guys very much for watching and having us on here live to discuss all things Magic. I would like to thank my co-hosts, you guys, for watching, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmikes. You can visit our website at magicmikespodcast.com or follow, like, tweet, share, favorite. Follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, and do everything social that helps people we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/magicmikes, on Twitter at magicmikescast, on Reddit at reddit.com/magicmikes, and on Facebook at facebook.com/magicmikes. Talk to us privately at magicmikespodcast@gmail.com. Shut up. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmikespodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place. Not next week, because I'm doing the live set review.
Oh,
but
yeah.
the week after that.
No next week.
But the week after that,
There
for
we go.
another episode of Magic Mike's. Good night, everybody.